tributes from across the music world are being paid to the guitarist Eddie Van Halen, who has died at the age of 65.
The co-founder and lead guitarist of Van Halen had been suffering from throat cancer. He's been remembered as a gifted musician with a big smile.
Gene Simmons of the rock band Kiss was a friend, and delighted to say he joins us now live on BBC Breakfast. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing some of your memories with us about Eddie. I know he's a good friend of yours, and you met him recently, didn't you? And you spoke about his cancer.
It's so, for me, this day has been very difficult, and even though this get up and stuff usually helps rockers communicate better, it's some kind of shield. I couldn't take off the glasses. I've been teary-eyed the whole day. What a tragedy. What a beautiful soul. People will tell you up and down, from the jazz world to the classical world, certainly the rockers, what an amazing giant he was on guitar. That's indisputable. But I will tell you that the humbling part of all this for me is, if you had ever spent time in the presence of Eddie Van Halen, yes, humbled is the word. You would have met a genuinely beautiful soul, somebody who was less about ego and more about, hey, how you doing? Having a good day? Just sort of matter of fact, despite the stardom and the giant talent that he had and the joy. I invite you to Google any live Van Halen shows and watch the joy. That's the only word I can use. The joy that this giant of guitars had in playing his instrument, just something to behold. And I mentioned this before. It hit me like a punch in the face. Somebody said, Eddie Van Halen just died. What? And they said cancer and all that, and I was aware he was fighting it. In fact, we talked about it a few times. And the first image I had was Eddie smiling. And that's the haunting part of it. His legacy is the giant of the musical industry, and what a kind soul he was. And my prayers and my condolences, my heartfelt best wishes to the family. They've got to be devastated by what's happened. Indeed, only the good die young. Eddie was just undeserving of this.
And it's lovely to hear you paying tribute to him, and that's the other thing we've heard this morning about his smile as well. But you saw him kind of way back before he was super famous. You spotted him and kind of took the band under your wing, didn't you? Was there something really special immediately you saw?
Well, I was invited to go see a few bands back in 1977, and Kiss had, been around a while. We were already sort of a big deal, and so they stuck me in the who the hell do you think you are upper part of it, while the rest of the folks were downstairs, and people are coming over. Hey man, can I have your autograph? And you try to be nice, and this sound came up like a symphony of guitars, like the guitar sounding like I'd never heard of it. What the hell is that? And this is the days before electronics and backing tracks and everything. The music was live, actual musicians playing live. And I pushed people aside, went to the front, and what I saw, I couldn't believe. It's just one guy on one guitar, and your lead singer, David Lee Roth, is flying up in the air and doing all the Alex Van Halen, the brothers pounding away. The whole band's rocking. And this one kid, because he was about 20 then, steps in the front and destroys that instrument and taps on it and does things to it I've never seen anybody do before. I was slack-jawed. I just couldn't believe what I saw. So I signed him right away, flew him to New York, put him up in a hotel and everything, and we went to Electric Lady Studios, Jimi Hendrix's old studio, and I produced 15 of their songs. Producing is not the right word, because the guys just went out into the studio and played live, like a Sinatra deal. The orchestra's there, and and Dave is singing, and they played live. And you can still Google that, the Gene Simmons demo, Van Halen, and all that. And the sheer brilliance of that band is 1 second Eddie's playing chords and all, and then in the solo, he jumps on and just like a fury. If you've ever gone to a race where the cars are going 200 miles an hour and you hear, vroom, you know, thing go by, it's just beyond anything I'd ever heard. And let me just say before I just get all bungled up here because the words are getting jumbled because of my emotional stuff, is I would urge you, take young people by the scruff of the neck and force them to sit down and stop texting and tweeting for a second and introduce them for the first time to the wonder of Eddie Van Halen and the band. Let them hear greatness. Let them witness the joy that this kid had and the amazing God-given gift that he had. And you may change a few minds. I'm fairly convinced of it. And I know right now, millions of fans around the world are blaring Van Halen on their music as an homage. And maybe that's what the legacy should be all about, the music.
Yeah, Gene, it's really interesting to hear your recollections and, you know, talking about the smile, married with that incredible musical ability. And you talk about young people. What's been really interesting when you see the tributes, there have been those who knew him well and spent time with him in the 70s and the 80s, but also a generation of new, fresh musicians who never met him, but were inspired by his just the incredible ability to, as you say, to destroy the guitar.
He was self-taught. He was classically trained on piano, but the astonishing thing was that Eddie was the original drummer. His brother Alex was the guitar player. And midstream, they formed a band and decided, hey, you want to play drums? I'll play lead guitar. And went from drums to guitar, and that's him on classical piano. It's just, you want to talk about talent, beat that. Just, there hasn't been anyone like him before, during, or since. And again, take your right hand and whack that cell phone out of little kid's hand when he's tweeting and doing all that just nonsense to find out what the latest young ingenue's style, what kind of lipstick he's wearing. Shut up, sit down and do something important and behold Eddie Van Halen.
I really think that you will be inspiring lots of people, and certainly me at least, to go and play it very loud today. Go and watch the concerts, and that's one of the great things about the era that we live in, that you can actually do that. Tell us about, because, you know, it looks so rock and roll, it looks so much fun, it looks so much out there. Was he interested, though, in the rock and roll lifestyle?
You know, the lifestyle seems to have gone hand in hand with that. You know, the self-abuse and the money and the fame and the chicks and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Eddie was never really a part of that. I'd go and I would fall, you know, prey to that seductive part of it, which is the fame and the adulation and all that. And there were places like the Rainbow in LA and around the world. You'd go there and people would come up and your ego would be satiated. Aren't I wonderful and all that stuff. I've never seen Eddie about that in those places. He just loved what he did. Again, the word joy comes up. And I'll tell you something else about his soul, the innate, the DNA of this kind guys. I never once heard him say anything bad about anybody. He would just shrug it off. And a sad testimony to that is he had cancer, and it was progressing, and people knew about it. It wasn't a secret. And I ran into Eddie on the street. I hadn't seen him for a while, of course, in the beginning, and we talked a lot. We used to hang out and come over to the house. Then I lost touch with him, and on the street in LA, I ran into him again. Eddie, how you doing? Yeah, I'm fine. And I didn't know how to bring up the subject, and he brought it up. Yeah, man, you know, I've got cancer and stuff like that. I didn't know what to say in response. And it brings tears to my eyes when I bring it up. And he said, hey, man, check this out. And he lifted his chin and he showed me what the ravages of cancer were doing to his upper palate. It was heartbreaking. And I was caught, I was at a lack for words. And Eddie was smoking a cigarette at the same time. And he just sort of shrugged and went, yeah, what are you going to do? And he was smiling, and then he just sort of went on happily. Here was a guy that loved life, and he really lived it. He lived it. And maybe that's a wake-up call to all of us. We complain about bad hair days, and of course I always complain about that. And the traffic and the people. It's like, get over yourself. What a wonderful thing life is. And Eddie Van Halen's music should be a wake-up call to all of us.
Well,
I was lucky to have known the guy. I wish you could have met him. You would have been humbled.
well, it's been wonderful to spend a bit of time with you this morning, hearing your memories, and you've paid a wonderful tribute to him, and it's quite clear the admiration and the friendship that the pair of you had for each other. So thank you very much, Gene Simmons, for being with us on BBC Breakfast this morning. It's been lovely.
Thank you very much indeed.